Hey everyone, it's Lee from Eating My Way Back, and today is Super Bowl Sunday, February 1st, 2015, and just got my garb on here. Don't know, there it is. There's my little vintage hoodie, and you can't probably see it, but here is a big Seahawks word there, and that was way before we'd even won the first Super Bowl. Which was last year, or even been in our first Super Bowl. So, yes, I'm a Seahawks fan, and Seattle is my adopted home city. I don't live there anymore. I kind of wish I did sometimes, but as we'll talk about today, the life that I live here in beautiful British Columbia is a pretty healthy and wonderful and amazing life. It's a lot less rat racy, and it certainly lends itself to being a lot healthier. And on that note, today being Super Bowl Sunday, I am vegan, as I've talked about before, so I'm going to be making some healthy foods. I'm still in the process of losing weight, and so I'm still having to make sure that that things are skinnified, as it were, and manage the portions pretty well. You know, I do have Sunday fun days, as I hear them called, or cheat days, whatnot. I don't really like to call them cheat days, because this is a lifestyle, and this is for the future and health. It's not really, I'm getting away with something, because you only hurt yourself. And I really don't ever like overeating, anything like that. I've done it once since I started this whole process back in late May of 2014, and that was in the summertime. We had a friend down from Montreal, and we went out for Thai food, and it was just amazing. But after eating even two of the healthier, lower fat, lower calorie things, it was vegan lettuce wraps with tofu and lots of nuts and lots of oil. And also I ate an entire large portion of tom yum, which is the broth tofu soup, the spicy tofu soup. Most of you probably get tom kha, as I used to as well. That's the one with the coconut milk. It's just that without coconut milk, and with a veggie broth, not a chicken broth. But that's really not the point of that. What I wanted to talk about was how bad I felt when I overate. I actually felt very ill. And I've remembered that ever since then. And because my body is now used to smaller portions, but multiple times throughout the day, over doing what I used to do, which was binge after binge after binge. Is the tank empty enough that I can binge again? All right, let's go. Even on healthy foods, I just don't do that anymore. It's not part of my life, and I didn't set out to never binge again, I guess, but that's really pretty much what's happened. Even on the holidays, when I've made food and made sure that I could have a certain amount with this whole weight loss plan, I haven't wanted to. Even nowadays with a regular meal, vegans eat a lot more bulky vegetable type foods, and so as a result, with my reduced calorie intake, I actually eat a lot more food than perhaps I maybe would have in the past at each meal, at snacks. And so when I find that even that's too much, I make sure and stop, and I don't overeat, because it's a really bad thing, and it's not a good feeling. It's not good for your body. It really puts it into a catastrophic kind of mode, at least I've found for myself. I guess I should start off also by saying I hope that you're all well. It's February now, so let go of the past, let go of January. If you had goals that you didn't quite achieve, roll them over or reevaluate if they were appropriate or realistic. And reality is going to be the theme of today and my video log here. And one of the things I'll talk about now is my progress. So in March of 2014, as I've talked about, I had a total hysterectomy to treat my polycystic ovarian syndrome, which was a direct result of my obesity, and to treat my endometriosis, which was helped by my obesity, certainly. and a lot of them go hand in hand. It's a chicken or the egg sometimes, but for me, I think that they both were a result of regaining and exceeding in gaining back to an obese weight and beyond to a super obese weight after recovering from anorexia. Because basically I just went from anorexia to bulimia to overeating. And so never stopped being eating disordered, but my body suffered. So in March of 2014, I had surgery. Once I was cleared, 6 weeks later, I had decided throughout my recovery of my surgery that I was going to go back to my vegan diet ways, and I don't like the word diet, but vegan eating. And I was going to work on my fitness if my body allowed, because I went into that surgery using a cane to walk, taking round-the-clock heavy opiate painkillers, and being very, very disabled. Not even being able to dress myself independently. And so, you know, even my wife says I would say that I wished that I was dead from time to time. I was in so much pain. So I was 315 pounds then, as I've talked about, and my goal was to be 175 pounds. I didn't put a time frame on it, although I hoped that it would be within 1 year from starting, or at least maybe even from surgery date. So I'm 178 pounds today, and of course it fluctuates. I don't always weigh myself every day. I have been this week, and I'll tell you why. But yeah, I'm 178 pounds in what I call durable pounds, meaning that I don't anticipate that there's a lot of water weight. You don't really have that kind of water weight after you're in more of a normal weight range, or the Wonderland weight range, as we call being in the 100s. And so you can trust that you're not fluctuating beyond more like 2-3 pounds, maybe 5 pounds I've seen from time to time, and then it quickly falls off because it indeed was salt, water retention, you know, and I watch my sodium. And my waist has gone from a 48-inch waist to a 32-inch waist at last measurement. That number doesn't move quite as much these days as the weight does. The weight is still dropping, but it's much slower. I hit the ones in December. In mid-December, I went into the below 200-pound range, and it has significantly slowed. So this last little bit of weight that I need to lose is coming off incredibly slowly, but you know, you just reassure yourself that you're on the right track. I'll talk about accountability and trackers in a bit, because that is where you understand where everything's going right, if there's something going wrong, and so it's good information. So I'm really pleased, very, very pleased. I'm feeling really great. This week is a week where I've taken on all of the chores here on the farm. As you saw in the previous video, I was out in the paddock with our 2 horses working, and basically something that I was curious about is, you know, I've had a lot of change in my muscle mass as well as my fat mass. For me, I needed to lose muscle mass as well, because I had a large amount of muscle to move a large amount of fat, and so everything had to reduce, and that's fairly normal. It's one reason why when you're on a weight loss pattern, you don't do things like over exercise, because you can put a lot of strain on things, and you can actually derail your weight loss, at least in my experience. So, like I say, none of this is from a medical professional perspective, though I am a clinician. I'm talking to you from an anecdotal status as somebody who has done this and is doing it successfully. So yeah, this week I've taken on a ton of chores, as we call them, out in the paddock with the horses, moving a lot of manure, moving hay, filling hay nets, doing chores with big water hoses, and all manner of things. And it's an all-day sort of broken up job to do, in addition to doing my own work, seeing clients and providing services in that way, and also taking care of the indoor animals. We have pets, the household, myself, cooking meals, because I cook meals now. You don't go out there and find good things prepared, even in the best of restaurants that work with a vegan weight loss plan. So one of the questions I had coming into this was, how is this going to work? And I used MyFitnessPal, and I use Map My Walk, and I have been doing a lot of cardio for my exercise. I do it every day. I walk a minimum of 3 kilometers per day, which doesn't sound like that much, but when you're in a weight loss plan, that's a pretty normal, nice amount, especially if you're doing it daily. And I'll go up to 5 kilometers, but most of the time it's in that sort of 3.5 to 4 kilometer range per day. And it's outside, it's not on a treadmill, so there's up and down elevation, and I push myself with times. I have split times that I can decide how fast I'd like to be on a certain kilometer, and that actually helps with burning fat, burning calories, and getting the cardio up, which is important. And so that's been my go-to exercise, and it mainly took shape. I started exercising in late summer. I didn't exercise at all in the beginning process of this losing weight because I was pretty disabled. I was in a lot of pain, and I just needed to focus on getting the weight off, and for me that meant the nutrition. And because my nutrition had been so poor, and I had been so sedentary with lying around with the pain, it really just melted off. I didn't, just living was my exercise, and working, because I went back to work as well in April. So yeah, I started exercising, which was walking, in late summer, and then I took a trip to Europe in October and November, and that's when the walking really stepped up, because I had to walk up to 10 kilometers a day, just walking around Switzerland and Iceland and France. And I came home determined not to lose that level of fitness, and that's when this whole tracking thing started. And I really saw some great accountable results, durable results as well, using MyFitnessPal and my walk, and they go in tandem. And it also, MyFitnessPal tracks my walking steps via a pedometer, so I can see kind of what's going on there. And so my goal is always 10,000 steps. I very rarely meet that, actually. I'm happy with above 5,000, but I average about 6 to 8 on a regular day when I've exercised, when I've parked at the end of a parking lot to do shopping. I do the meal shopping for the family because of the fact that I do the cooking right now. So yeah, those have been fantastic, and I'll show you. I'm hoping at some point to be tech savvy enough to show you some plates of actually what it looks like. If you follow my Twitter, which is Eating My Way Back, or if you follow my Instagram, which is I_want_vegan, then you can actually see that as well, because I tend to post some plates of some screen grabs, if you will, of my nutrition balances. And I don't talk a lot about calories in, calories out, because for everybody it's different. And for me, it's always changing depending on my level of activity. And that's why I want to talk a little bit about trackers and calories. In the past, when I was anorexic, or when I was going into bulimia, or trying to be unhealthy about my food and restrict, because the anorexic mindset can exist even if you are obese, especially if you've been anorexic before, as I was. We often use numbers and trackers against ourselves, and we're always looking to be lower on the calories. And I had a conversation with a couple of friends this morning, and we were all talking about how now we're using trackers to help us be on track with actually either losing unhealthy weight or maintaining healthy weight. And that's the really important part. I find that that's been me ever since this process of losing this obesity weight started. The trackers have been immeasurable in the way, immeasurable, pardon the pun there. It's been immeasurable to me in terms of the reality check. I can see if there are trends that are going in the right direction. If I'm being successful, I can go see why. If I'm uncertain, or if I've got the wrong idea about it, I can also really see how much sugar I'm taking in, which is easy for vegans to do. You can hear our cuckoo clock there. Vegans tend to eat a lot of carbs, and there is a high carb vegan diet that is out there that I don't do, so I know a lot of people find that successful. But for me, because diabetes is a huge concern for me, and at the beginning of this process, I was pre-diabetic, and I continue to have a little bit higher of an A1C than I would like. That's an average over 30 days of your blood glucose level, which is your blood sugar level. It's knocking on my door, and it was, especially when I was obese. My mom died of heart disease and diabetes at the age of 55. She had open heart surgery at the age of 46. I'm 42. I don't want those things. And so I'm doing all I can, and this is part of it. So sugar is one thing that I watch via the trackers. And I do watch my carbs, but I hardly ever even touch near where my carbs would be a problem. I watch sodium because water retention does derail my weight loss sometimes, and it's just that much harder when you're retaining the water to do the exercise and to keep going when you need to take in less calories so that you can continue to lose weight. And then I also watch my iron. I like to donate blood, and ever since kicking obesity's ass, I donated blood for the first time in my life, and I want to continue doing that. Right now I'm on a hiatus from it because I had a tattoo in October. I don't know if you can see this, but that one. And so you're not permitted in Canada to donate blood for 6 months when you get a tattoo. So I'm loading up on the iron, so lots and lots of spinach and kale, and even dark chocolate gives you iron, but be easy on the dark chocolate. There's saturated fat. Sorry, you can hear our cats fighting a little bit there. So getting back to looking at the trackers, coming into this week, knowing I was going to take over the chores, my wife and I discussed how this was going to work, because she's been part of this process and she's been there with me every step of the way. Support is huge in this process. You have to have support, first from within, but it is so helpful to have a family that's supportive. And she loves all the food that I make, which is wonderful. You know, it's healthy for both of us. So she and I talked about the fact that, you know, I exercise cardio-wise every day. I do my walking in some fashion. And she's not a medical person, but she's very intelligent, highly intelligent, actually, very intellectual. And she she thought that I wouldn't need to do the cardio, and probably shouldn't, because I would be taking on so much of the workout in the paddock this week, doing the pushing around of the cart and the picking manure and all those things. And I wasn't certain about that. I thought I'd have to continue that. And so I've been using my trackers to track the vigorous activity that I do in the 30 to 60 minute spurts that I've been doing it 2 to 3 times a day. And lo and behold, she was right. In the first day, I dropped 2.5 pounds, actually, because I kept the same level of calories as I had been and did this way increased activity. You know, it was a huge calorie deficit, I'm sure, and it's eased off a little bit, but I've also upped the calories a little bit, and so there you go. You know, she was right, and you have to take that into consideration, and tracking and accountability are very helpful. You know, for me, it hasn't been so much of a problem of the other direction with accountability, with eating too much, you know, because I check in with a tracker. I pre-log, which is essential. I really believe this. If you pre-log, then you can always remove something. But if you eat spontaneously, you know, it's really difficult to maintain a weight loss pattern. And I'm not talking about using the tracker for accountability for maintaining or even gaining weight when you have an eating disorder. I am talking about not letting things spiral out of control. You know, thinking, oh, I can eat a Cliff Bar or something like that. You know, no, look at your tracker and see the impact that it's going to have, the effect that it will have, and it could very well derail you. I mean, go for it if you want to try it, and then the next day see, but I'd much rather just maintain balance. And so my trackers have been helpful with that. And right now I'm finding, obviously because I'm taking on this extra work with the exercise outside, with taking care of the property and the horses, that I actually am more like someone who is trying to maintain or gain weight. So I have to make sure that I get enough nutrients and eat enough, and it's a job as well because being vegan and being healthy, and you know, I don't just grab, you know, a really fatty snack, you know, without thinking about it. You know, I'm actually more apt to eat like literally a pint of strawberries or something like that, and drink a glass of almond milk as a snack, which is actually, in terms of volume, like a meal, really, maybe more than even. So you have to be really careful about that too. You can't overload yourself, because then you won't be interested in eating. And I've had that experience, and we were talking about that as well, some friends and I, this morning, about how they are struggling with their eating disorder patterns, in terms of like bulimia and restriction and whatnot. And so they're having trouble having appetites. For me, it's similar, but it's more about, because I choose to eat such healthy, bulky foods, it's really difficult to just have the stomach to do all of that. So, I'm today my goal is to actually try to have denser food, to increase these calories a little bit. And I'm hoping that I'm successful with that. We'll see. But I'm sure I will be. Everything, that's the other thing. You find a confidence and a competence when you do things in a reality-based setting. The trackers are reality checks. And oftentimes in obesity, so forgetting even about eating disorders, which I feel like obesity is the result of one, but with obesity, we tell ourselves a lot of lies. We tell ourselves, this is a normal portion, or this is a normal amount of fat, or I eat the low-fat this, or a vegan this, and so it gives me license to binge, basically. We just have a hugely skewed idea of what we're doing, and with our fitness as well. Something that I hear all the time from friends who are asking about weight loss, because obviously they see my success, is when I tell them that all I do is walk, but I walk in a very focused, fitness-minded session, in addition to all the other walking that I do in a day. I hear, I stand on my feet for my job all day. I walk, I take transit. I walk all day. I'm always walking at the office. I'm up and down. I don't sit at my desk very often. And yet they wonder why they're not losing weight. Because they might have other habits that they know are ones, they always focus on the food. I'm not going to drink as much wine. I'm going to watch what I eat. But really, they're resisting the idea that you do have to exercise too. You can't just keep the same habits. If that activity level were sufficient to help you lose weight, then you could just drop the wine out of your meals and you should see weight loss. But it's not true. And I've told myself those lies before too. I used to work in a hospital where I never did actually sit down in a 10-hour day. And I never lost weight. In fact, I gained weight. And yet I was quite active. The problem was that I wasn't actually exercising. I would walk from one room to another room and stand, or I would lean against a counter and chart a note or something like that. And then I'd sit in my car for 2.5 hours a day on commutes, and then I'd sit down at home. I'd never get up and do anything at home except for take my dog outside, and I would eat, and I would eat, And so you have to get real, and trackers help you do that, because they actually look at the steps that you're taking, and they tell you how many calories you're burning versus how many calories you're putting in, and they also tell you patterns. If you're gaining, if you're losing. MyFitnessPal is one I like because it will tell me you're likely not eating enough calories. This is the projected weight for 5 weeks, and if it looks ridiculously low, I can say, okay, something's wrong, and I go review. Because you can look at your reports. So I know this is sounding like a MyFitnessPal commercial, but I really like that one. There are many others out there. There's Spark People. I've used that one in the past, so I can't speak to how much it has, other than I really liked that you could blog there. You can hook all of these devices up with your apps and whatnot with iPad, iPhone, which is what I do. I'm not as much on the computer as much. I do like the fact that with MyFitnessPal, I like their recipes that I can put in, and so foods that I tend to make a lot more often, I just have the recipe that I used, and then I go back and look at it to see what I did, because I liked it, and it works with this weight loss plan. So yeah, a bit of humble pie there when my non-medical wife predicted that I would have to stop doing the extra cardio with the walking, and she's right. I mean, I miss it, but I don't really have time, and I don't have I have to eat so many more calories right now. I just think that this is a good balance to just do the chores and eat what is necessary to eat to maintain that. speaking of that, I'm looking forward to the next phase. I'm just about done with the weight loss phase, 3 pounds away if you count the weigh in today. I know there will be a balancing portion of time where my body will reset a little bit, I'll sort of start adding some muscle back, because that will be part of my goal for the next phase. I mean, I'd really like to do some things like there's something called the grouse grind here, which is straight up a mountainside, a bunch of steps, and I'd like to do that. That's part of this whole process of doing these farm chores this week and next week, is that I really know what my body can do. I do have a congenitally narrowed spinal column, which means basically that my whole life I've had a bad back and I didn't know it, and I've done, with a heavy amount of weight on my body, a lot of impact sports. I did gymnastics as a child, and I continued recreational gymnastics into my adulthood. I've worked with patients in a medical setting where I've lifted a lot. I've just basically punished my back, and it let me know that when I was obese this last round with the polycystic ovarian syndrome and the endometriosis. And I don't really have much of a back left that I can abuse, so I can't horseback ride or run. But I can certainly swim. There are many things I can do. And one of the things I do for a living is help people solve problems and help people structure their lives. And so I'm applying that to me. And, part of it as well with the positive reinforcement that you can give yourself is just, what can I do? When we're obese all those years and we can't do anything, or everything is tough when we do try to do it and we're not as successful as other people who are a normal weight, is that we have that big question mark where we don't feel competent. And we tell ourselves before we even attempt an activity, oh, I'll never be able to do this. I can't do this. This is going to be really hard. And when I find myself doing that now, A, I'm wrong, because I usually can do whatever I'm trying to do. And B, now I'm learning to just not do that. Because why don't you just try it and let yourself find out? I mean, I think a healthy person mentally and physically just does a task and then they modify it within if something is difficult, and usually they have the reserves to mentally and physically to change how they're approaching that task, and certainly I couldn't climb Mount Everest right now. I mean, we're getting back to reality, but something like lifting a heavy bale of hay, you just find a way to do it, and you just use your body mechanics and you check your back and make sure that it's okay. And of course, it's going to be all right. I can do anything. Look what I've just done. I've almost lost 140 pounds on my own, the right way. And I haven't resorted to restriction. I haven't resorted to anything like that. There's no eating disordered behavior going on. If anything, it's super healthy because I'm exercising and everything is tracked. Everything is out in the open. So, yeah, be positive. You can do it. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. Because I had these other health challenges. I also was working full time, and I have this back issue, and it's possible, So I'm looking ahead to this new world of maintenance, of being normal, Somebody like my wife knows that, if I'm going to take on a whole bunch of tasks, like doing all the barn chores, that I don't need to do extra exercise. She is someone who has had a different road than I have. I think about someone like me, who I was 200 pounds by the time I was 16 years old. I've had a lifetime of being in that obesity mindset. Even when I was anorexic, I was in an obesity mindset. That's what I thought was going to happen if I ate a meal, So remembering that I can do it is really great, and feeling competent. And I'm accountable to myself for that, and also to my trackers for the reality. So I encourage you to try it, even if you just have a goal of being fit. They help you with that as well. They'll help you tailor what your nutrition is to it. And they've certainly helped me. So if you're wondering, oh, how did she do it? How is she doing it? That's a big part of it. So I wish you well. I'm about to start making some healthy snacks, and of course they'll show up on my Instagram, which is I_want_vegan. And they're cross-posted usually to Twitter, which is Eating My Way Back. You can also check out eatingmywayback.com. That is my blog. And of course, always here, I check in as often as I can. I want to, as always, have a dialogue. I want to know how you're doing and what's going on with your lives, and what you think of the information, and if there's anything you agree with, disagree with, if you just hate it, if there's any suggestions that you'd like for future videos. I'm still kind of getting the hang of this particular way of communicating, so forgive my faux pas. So take care, have a great afternoon, and let me know down below what you think, okay? And try to eat your way back. You can. I'm doing it. It's possible, okay? Bye.